Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I had a comment of a question that I want to go over, and it's basically the perspective on the future and how do you actually see a future or the possibility of a future after you've gone through something like this and you're going through it. I thought it was a really good question, and let me hit the right button. So what I'm going to go over on this is I'm going to break it into what the person wrote, and then I'll just go through the logistics of a long divorce, what it feels like, the paranoia when things calm down, focusing on the past because we get caught up in that do loop to where you can't even see a future when you finally start seeing a future. And the critical point on this, that you always have to keep your guard up. It's unfortunate, but it is true. So let me pull up. This is the whoa. Oh, wow. I didn't know I could do that. That's going to be a complete train wreck of a tragedy. Okay. Let's see if I can. There we go. Wow. I guess I should have locked that. I scrolled on the wrong screen. Anyways. So this is what I got from Just Act Normal. And basically the person says, you probably already touched on this subject, but I'm in a very, very, very late stage of parenting a teenager, which that is just rough on its own. So that's not exactly a fun process anyways. My court journey began when my son was about 5, and he's 15 now, and his father and I were in family court on and off, probably until he was about 13 years old. Yeah, big surprise there, because that's around, I'm going to get into this, but that's around the time that the kids start to get tired of all this crap and typically will start pushing back and not just be these passive observers on what's going on. Could you touch on what it feels like when time goes on and things start calming down? How do you see a future in a positive fashion and try not to focus on the past pain of extensive and excruciating family court litigation? The case was just so extensive and awful, it feels like a burn mark that won't go away. The first thing I just want to say on that is that's absolutely, unfortunately, normal. Even when things calm down, and it actually gets a little rough because when things do finally start calming down, it's hard to allow yourself to see that because, and I'm going to get into this in the slides coming up, but it's hard to imagine that this will ever go away. And I did struggle with that myself. I was like, this could never get better. This is going to be like lopping my arm off, and every day it's going to be painful. And fortunately, that's not the case, at least what from me personally and what I've seen with multiple people throughout the history of this channel. Let me see. Let me get back over to the right thing. Okay, so the first thing that I want to hit is the logistics of a long divorce. Okay, so here's the thing that I think everyone probably knows, and this person is experienced, is a toxic ex/parent, which giving them the title of parent is kind of almost unfair because they don't even think about things in regards to being a parent or what's actually in the best interest of the kids. It's just about them. And bottom line on that is they will fight on everything. And if court isn't a threat to them, they will continue to use that. The only way to typically resolve that, and when I say resolve it is, I mean, end it, is one of two ways. One, you get a crushing victory, or, they get a crushing defeat in court to where for some reason they finally go, oh crap, that's not fun, so I don't want to do that anymore. More typically what happens is the kids start putting their foot down on the stupid stuff. And unfortunately, it takes kids typically getting into their teens before they're really willing to start advocating for themselves. Otherwise, typically what happens is they just shut down. And when the toxic, and the sad part is what happens is a kid could talk to you about something and say, oh, I really want to do this. Okay, great. And then, all right, if you want to do it, you talk to the other parent goes to little Timmy, says, well, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to not be with me and go do this other thing and miss out time on me? You know, sometimes it's that blatant, but very subtle. It's more subtle manipulation. And the kid's like, oh crap, no, I don't want to do that, because they don't want to deal with the chaos. So they just they push their own desires down so that they can appease typically the toxic parent. Very frustrating for us. What I would say on that, what I had to do to get through that is stop asking the kids what they wanted to do and then go fight for it. But I had to basically say, if you want to do something, you've got to push it, because I'm tired of getting beat up. I'm tired of, I think that you're going to do something, and then ultimately, you know, they back off, and then it's just, you put yourself through extra pain. Again, what typically happens is when the kids turn that magic age where they start having their own little voice, and this is where that last bullet on this, the children really determine when drama calms down, typically in their teens. That's typically whenever the kids will be like, wait a minute. I mean, like even later, when all my kids were in the teens, you know, mommy. I don't know, this person was a mom, so I'm not, you know, whatever. I'm just saying the toxic ex in this scenario would still try to ramp the kids up. Like, oh my God, you know, we're going to be late. You know, your dad's going to be mad. And the kids would be like, he's not going to be mad. But it's that type of trying to keep the chaos, and it takes the kids prior to the kids basically saying, no, that's not what's going to happen. You need to, you know, calm down. They would get all freaked out. And by the time they would walk in the door, they would be so freaked and tense and stressed and waiting for me to explode that's where that whole Groundhog Day thing would come into, where it just seemed like every freaking time that kids came back, it was starting over. Once they got old enough and started not playing into that, that's when things change. That's why, honestly, and I hate to say it because it shouldn't be this way, because the kids should be insulated from this nightmare. They shouldn't be active participants in it. But unfortunately, that is basically the way it goes. So then the next part of this is, what does things feel like when things calm down? Now here's the rough part about this, is it takes a long time. It shouldn't take a long time. And what you're going to realize is these people love drama, they love chaos, and they will do everything in their power to perpetuate it forever. A normal human would be like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. How do I make this chaos stop? That's because we're normal. We don't want to deal with that, you know, and unfortunately, that's their comfort zone. So they have a tendency to want to stay there, which is really frustrating. So here's the other thing is you got to be careful on letting your guard down. What typically happens, especially in the early part of this, and I'm sure this person has experienced this, they're probably still kind of in this stage, where when you start to feel like things are getting better, then they take you back to court, or they bring something else up, or they find some way to poke you in the eye. Typically, what they'll do is as soon as they realize they can't get to you directly, then they start messing with the kids, or little Timmy is now suicidal. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube. But basically they will start making up some drama with the kids. And I've seen this over and over and over again with multiple people. And I mean, and I fell victim to that. There was a time where, you know, the ex would like say, oh, well, you know, did you know little Timmy, you know, wants to become an axe murderer? You know, and I'm like, oh my God, this is you know, this is, you know, super serious, which it is. If it's real, it's super serious. But take a step back and look at the controlled drama that they're trying to do. I mean, I had another buddy of mine who, similar thing. It's like, hey, little Timmy has disappeared. He said he's going to off himself. And so the dad in this particular situation, you know, started trying to find out where his kid was. Kid was in late teens and, you know, freaking out. And then it was like, then it was not an issue. And then the kid was mad that the dad was getting concerned. Right. And I'm going to jump into that here in a second as well. So and this kind of dovetails what I was just saying. My next item is when the toxic ex feels you are breaking free, they will try to drag you back in. And the example I was just using of trying to use the kids on something, or trying to come up with some other drama, they'll do that. As soon as they realize they can't get to you directly, then they start using the kids. And then it takes the kids to stop that. Now, sometimes kids, teenagers will still play that stupid game because they feel comfortable with it. And it's really hard not to get drugged back down into that drama. Now, the problem with this whole phase, which this can take a long time, is, and this happened to me as well, is that when you get to the point where it's like, oh, okay, every time I feel like things are getting better, it's not better, or something goes wrong. So then even when you finally get into that stage where you think things are calming down, you're anticipating something negative is going to happen, and you're waiting for it. So you can't even enjoy the calm because you're like, okay, when's the next shoe going to drop? And that happened, for me, that happened a lot. Even as things progressed and got better, I've discussed this before, there's other things that would come up. It's like, okay, cool. Finally, all the drama's over. Then something else would start. I have a video I posted right at the end of the year where I kind of talked about how 2024 was that way for me. If you want more information on that, you can, if I can remember how to put a block up, I'll put it up. But if not, don't worry, just look back and you'll see it. But what I'm saying on that is where oftentimes what can happen is that when you feel calm, you start freaking out, and it starts making it more stressful because you're just anticipating for the next shoe to drop. Again, on this, the kids can make this stop when they're tired of it. And it depends on whether they get tired of it and if they want to actually stick their foot in the middle of it. Honestly, my only kid that really did that was my youngest. The other kids were even though we kind of started the divorce, I think with was like 13, or my kids were like 12, whatever. I think the oldest was like almost 12. So they were so freaked out that it took them a lot longer to get to that point. My younger one was easier because they didn't understand what was going on. So early on, they're like, well, this is just, why do I need to worry about this? Where the other kids would, no, don't say that, would physically actually slap her, say not to talk about things and stuff like that. So, but kids do have a lot more power on this. But the thing is that you can't turn around and you can't basically have that type of conversation with them because it'll blow up in your face. If you sat down your kids and say, look, little Timmy, you really have a lot more power in this, and whatever you do, they're going to go right over back to the other parent. They're going to tell the other parent is going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that, so-and-so said that to you, and just use it as a wedge issue, which I'll get more into wedge issues here in a second. But the next thing is focusing on the past and not seeing a future. Okay. This first bullet right here is the main sticking point that prevents you from moving forward. And it's hard to let go of what was lost. The illusion of the family, what your financial security was going to be, that future you saw with that person, or you thought, that illusion that you thought you had with them, and the comparison of that. It's really tough to break past this because every time you try to think about the future, you're thinking about what you lost. You're like, I should be in a bigger house, or, we were going to have retirement, or, we had a plan for the kids to go to college, but now that's all been destroyed because I had to, we had that money got all eaten up by attorneys, that type of stuff. It's really hard to let go of. So the next thing is feels like pain in the PTS, or the post-traumatic stress disorder, will never leave you. I got caught in that infinite do loop for a long time to where it felt like it didn't matter. This pain and crap was going to be here forever. I would never be able to let it go, because how can you let it go when someone has just destroyed everything that you were trying to build, and you feel like there's no way past it. There is no way past it is what you feel. Now, I'm here to tell you, I felt that. I was caught in that loop for a very long time, and things have gotten better. Not because the ex changed, not even really because the kids changed. It's because I changed and my perspective changed, and I was able to, kind of reset my life, so to speak. So one of the biggest problems you can get caught up in that is comparing your life, their life. It's really tough on this, especially if you're on the payee side of this. Whenever you're getting financially ruined, you're probably in that situation trying to scrape back anytime you can with your kids. And it's just like a daily reminder of what you've lost. Like, what I listed before. And that's what was a problem with me. It's like every time I got paid, not that it's all, I'm going to say money on this thing, but it's not all about that, because there's more to it, right? It's like money is one of it, right? Whenever you get your paycheck and it's gone and you're like, holy crap, I don't have money for food and gas and everything. That's hard. The fact that you had unlimited, unfeathered access to your kids and now you don't. If you're lucky, you have 50-50. But at the same time, sometimes 50-50 is hard too, because it's constantly pulling you back into this mess. So it's like a wound that can't heal because it's constantly getting ripped back open. The key thing in this part of it is the main tools that I'll pull up. Well, let me pull this up now. Main tools of my mindset for narcissistic abuse recovery, which if you go to the main YouTube page, you scroll down right here, mindset for narcissistic abuse recovery. And the first 3 videos, hybrid no contact, which basically is a methodology of minimal contact with the ex, because you still have to have conversations because there's kids involved. You can't go no contact. So there is it's a process of how to still engage with that without having, when you can't completely phase them out. Absolute thinking, the key point on that is because you're going to be ruminating about this, like why, where you drill it into your head that this person is a toxic person, more than likely with a personality disorder, a mental problem. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not fixable. And you have to keep reminding yourself the reason this is happening is because this person is broken. And the black hole thinking is you have to stop thinking about what is going on at the ex's house, what is happening with the kids when they're over there. You need to basically, like, that time is just shut off. It's like it's in a black hole. And then when the kids are with you, you start back up like they weren't there, or as if they never left, and minimizing the discussion of what's going on over there. You need to get to the point where you don't want to hear about dad's new girlfriend or mommy's new trip to the Bahamas. It's irrelevant. It doesn't do anything good for you, and you've got to stop doing it. The real key point on this is your perspective changes. It doesn't change, like I mentioned earlier. It doesn't change because they change or they have a come to Jesus moment and realize, oh my God, this is horrible and this is hurting the kids and I should do something different. No. It's not because they get a job and then they're like, you know what, this is financially ruining you and let's do something to fix it. It's not going to be that. And it's not going to be, the kids need to spend more time with you and they want to do this, so let's make it happen. It's none of that. It's going to be the exact same thing. But what happens is your perspective changes on it, the way you look at it, the way the way you not compartmentalize it, but the way you engage with them, the way you engage with the kids, and how you look at your life going forward. And that process right there is tough. It takes, unfortunately, a long time to work through it. And a big part of it is just getting to the point where you realize that if you don't change, it's going to kill you. It's going to break you and corrupt the rest of your life. Now, as I've mentioned in old videos, I saw my dad go through this. So in the back of my mind, I knew that I didn't want to do that. And it still took me a couple of years post-divorce, maybe 3, to really get to the point to where I started embracing that and taking my life back. So it is not going to be easy. It is not. But if you keep working towards it, you keep using those other skills like I was showing on this playlist. And if you go through this, the first 3 are key tactics that you really have to do. And the rest of the videos, there's like, I think, does it say how many are in there? There might be like 38 or 40 videos in there that I just kind of placed together where I thought, okay, well, after this one would be good. Then this one would be good. So it's a good primer to kind of remind yourself. Plus there's all pre-beard stuff. So it's my older original videos, but that'll really, if you keep going through that, it'll definitely help you change your perspective. And you're going to have to give it time. You're just going to have to basically understand that this doesn't happen overnight, which is annoying because we should be able to get our lives back faster, but this does take a lot of time, like I mentioned a minute ago. Okay, so then you do start seeing the future, and how do you start doing that? Well, you have to work on yourself. I mean, you really need to work on dealing with the trauma that got you here and processing it and getting to the point that you're not triggered or have emotional flashbacks because of things, even external, right? It can be, you can be having a conversation with somebody and they say something and you drop into a mindset or a moment that's just really tough because you haven't dealt with it. You have to deal with this. If you don't, this will never get any better. Think of it like physical therapy. If you have an injury and you're supposed to do stretching exercises, well, you can choose not to. You can choose not to, and you're going to lock in the mobility that you will get, and it'll never get any better. But if you put in the work, you increase the possibility, the opportunity, likelihood, increase the likelihood that you are going to heal that injury and get more back from it. But it sucks. It hurts. It's physically painful. This is emotionally painful, but you still have to do it. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, but letting go of the past is super critical on this. It's really hard to do, and you have to re-baseline your life. You can't look at it as, well, I was at this stage in life, and now I'm down to here. Let me go like this. Okay, so now you're down to here. This is where you're at. And you're like, well, how do I ever get back there? I'm working my ass off and I'm never going to get back there. If you don't let that go, if you don't say, you know what, that's gone. I'm going to just take this off the table and now I'm back here. And if you just, when you get to the point, and it's hard to do this, but when you get to this point and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm here. Hey, I made it here. Woohoo. Now I'm here, And maybe if you're lucky, some people, their life gets so much better emotionally, financially, across the board. I know a few people that have succeeded on that. And their life is even better than it was before. But you have to let that go. That the only way to do that is to let go of that past, reset your life. And I say rebaselining like a project manager type thing. Like sometimes projects get so screwed up that you got to start over and put out the timeline and what's going to happen. The other key on this is when you start working towards rebuilding your life, where you're actually putting effort into it. Now, here's the thing. Keep this information close hold. Don't tell the kids in detail of what's going on, because more than likely they are going to tell the other person everything that's going on, because in their mind, the other person doesn't care. They're going to be happy for you, right? And not understand that every time they leak information, it causes the other person to feel, kind of like go back to the beginning and want to find a way to pull you back in. And they are very, very capable of doing that, right? Again, on the last bullet on this thing was perspective is still key. You decide what you focus on. We all have so much more power on this than we really realize. It's just that letting go and getting stuck in that past and ruminating and just like the stubbornness of not being able to let go of it that's what is so devastating about this. but you have to work at it. And what happens is, like I mentioned earlier, is your perspective changes. Your ability to decide what's going to take your attention increases. And I personally, like when I'm working with people and I see them transition into that phase, I really love seeing that, because that's the part where the person starts taking their life back to where they're not affected by the BS that their kids are doing. Now they might have backslides every once in a while where they do ruminate about the past and why is this so difficult. Again, the hybrid no contact, absolute thinking, black hole thinking can help with that. Every once in a while, if I'm in a weird mode, I'll just be like, oh my God, this has been such a nightmare. Why did it have to be like this? Well, the reason is the person, and the absolute thinking, even undiagnosed, you pick what you think the person is. That 1000% is the reason. And it's like, okay, well, that's what people like, that's what a person with NPD does, narcissistic personality disorder. This is the behavioral patterns. This is what they do. This is well documented. My person is doing this. So it falls right in line with that. So of course, this is what's going to happen because that's what they do. All right. Keeping your guard up. Now, this part kind of snuck up on me. I'll just go down this. You have to be careful. You have to anticipate that the ex is going to try to find wedge issues, whether it's, and I'll get down to it at the bottom of this. So let me just go through this so I keep it in order. So I say, as kids get older, you have to be careful of double binds. Double binds when they're younger would be along the lines of, oh, little Susie has a friend who's coming into town and it's right in the middle of your vacation. And of course you're going to let them see, not take your time with them and let them stay with me. This actually happened to me. And it's one of those things to where you're kind of in a no-win situation. I mean, legally, nope, it's my time. I got the priority. I'm doing this. But what a toxic ex will do is they will use that as a wedge issue to basically try to undermine your relationship with your kid. And basically, next bullet, a toxic ex always is looking toward finding leverage and weaponization of issues, sports, whatever, school, plays, events, just whatever, just be prepared for it. My advice on that, and when you're at this point, is just kind of focus on what you think is best for the kids. Try not to think about the ex and just think like, okay, does little Susie really want to do this? Is this important to them? And make the decision based on what's best for your kid in that regard. And what I'm talking about is like, if it's, I really want to go do this with mommy in my situation. I want to really do this. Okay. All right. Well, if it's really important to you, then okay, we'll make it happen. Now, just to be clear, don't think that that's going to magically make the kids respect you more and stuff like that. Like I said before, things get better, but it doesn't get better because it changes. It's because of the way you deal with it. And that's what I had to do. This stuff's tough. This is really, really, really tough. And this is where I'm talking about, and that's kind of what I mean by adjust when necessary, is repick what you're not repick, but try to focus on the kid and what's important and try to take your decision matrix out of it's a victory for the ex. That's really tough. I mean, I can remember way back when my middle daughter was going to college or getting ready to, I didn't think we were going to be able to pull it off, but I'm like, hey, until we hit a roadblock to where it's dead, let's not just, accept defeat out of the hands of victory, so to speak. Right. And I'm just this one example. I had, taken my daughter to to, the day, just to view the campus and just look at it. That's when it was like, they were talking about the scholarships and stuff. And it was like, holy crap, this might actually be doable. And then it was like orientation. I think what it was is whenever the orientation was, my middle daughter was like, no, mommy's going to take me. Mommy's taking me. And I'm like, okay, fine. All right, cool. Okay. Whatever. And, like 2 days before the event, it's like, so what time are you picking me up? Now I could have said, well, you said you were going to do it with your mom, or I have plans. I'm not going to, be around or whatever. I didn't do that. I just said, okay, 9:00, I'll pick you up and I can't remember if we spent the night down there or how we did it, but whatever. And I just made it happen. I think on the trip, I might have said like, hey, what happened? Because I thought I wasn't involved in this, and the thing is that the reality is a toxic person that has more than likely a personality disorder doesn't give a crap about anyone other than themselves. So they're not going to look at it and say, oh, okay, this is really important to my kid. And it was really important for our daughter that they wanted mommy to be a part of it. So you just have to adapt. You have to adapt when necessary. Okay, now here, watch for issues, especially when the kids get older. And when I put on their boyfriend, girlfriend rules, stuff like that. Now, here's where the things get really tough is when the kids get into their teenage years. And I've seen this a lot. Normally this seems to come from toxic moms for some reason. I haven't seen too many dads that do this. I'm sure there probably are, but whatever. But where it's like, hey, my boyfriend's going to spend the night at my house, and, they're 16, 17 years old. And, most people are going to be like, the hell you are. It's a wedge issue. They're trying to come up with a way to basically obliterate your relationship with the kids because you're going to say no. Same thing with rules. They'll have certain rules or no rules at the other house. You'll try to have rules at your house, and it just creates wedge issues. And you have to really be aware of that. I'm not going to go into detail, but did get that. I let my guard down with my youngest. I thought we had a really solid relationship, and around the sophomore, I think 16, 17 age time frame, there was an issue that I was not anticipating that I thought was resolved, but it was weaponized, and it blew up in my face, and it was really rough to pull back on that and to get things back on track. So that hopefully that answers this person's, let me see if I can pull this back up, this person's what they were talking about. The thing is mainly is you have to start, like I was saying a minute ago, you have to really start working on yourself and investing time in yourself for that future, and letting go is really key. You have to let go of that past and work through it so the trauma isn't following you around. And when you're able to do that, that is whenever there's even letting go of the excruciating family court litigation and stuff starts to go away. Now, the reality is I used to think, or not the reality, the experience is you feel like that person was saying is like that burn will never go away. It feels like an injury that cannot heal. And I had made my peace with that at one point. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have this baseline bad feeling for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to have to make my peace with it. And what I will tell you is when I finally kind of got to that point and said, okay, I can deal with that, that went away. So maybe a little bit, maybe there's a little bit of every once in a while, I kind of like just go, wow, this really was an interesting, a negative experience. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. My worst day now is equivalent to basically the best days I used to have when I was in that relationship. So it does get better, but it really depends upon you and how you decide to move forward with it. So on that, I'm curious what you think. So Let's continue that discussion down in the comment section. For the magic word to see if you've stayed to the end is coffee. Add coffee into your comment, or just say coffee so I know that you made it to the end. If you have something that you would like me to discuss or add some perspective or thoughts on, add that in the comment section below. And I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, take care.